This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything.
This is Steve Jobs giving his keynote at Macworld on January 9th, 2007. Although there was online speculation about the launch of a new Mac product, no one present in San Francisco on that day had any idea how life-shaping this announcement would be, even though Jobs himself said, every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes absolutely everything. It's difficult to think that the iPhone's own creator knew just how revolutionary it would be.
Well, first of all, one's very fortunate if you get to work on just one of these in your career. Apple's been very fortunate. It's been able to introduce a few of these into the world. In 1984, we introduced the Macintosh. It didn't just change Apple. It changed the whole computer industry. In 2001, we introduced the first iPod. And it didn't just change the way we all listen to music. It changed the entire music industry. Well, today, we're introducing 3 revolutionary products of this class. The first one is a widescreen iPod with touch controls. The second is a revolutionary mobile phone. And the third is a breakthrough internet communications device. So, 3 things: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
It's clear that Jobs had significant expectations for what this product could do. He points back to 1984 and states how the earliest Mac shaped the world of computers. He then points to 2001, which was marked by the iPod revolutionizing the entire music industry. In this 2007 keynote, we all were told 3 products were launching, and the twist was the reality of them being combined. It should also be noted that Apple TV was also announced on this day, which was understandably lost in the announcement of the iPhone. None of us had a clue how life-altering this day would be. This is the final episode of Digital Christianity, episode 15. Where do we go from here? I began serving in youth ministry back in 2001. I can remember when students began texting each other and being baffled, wondering, why in the world would you text someone instead of calling them? You may also have forgotten that these were the days when our texts were limited to a specific number. Now we live in a time where our devices are becoming more of a part of who we are. Although there's talk and speculation of our devices becoming fused to our bodies, there's a sense in which this has already taken place. For all of us, it's easy to become fixated on products and trends. Some of us can even become fearful about the future, losing sight of the reality of a good and powerful God who's on the throne. For Christians, we must stay focused on the sovereign reign of a good and powerful God, but we must also stay focused on the heart and soul, not only on our own, but those of our children. Here's a snippet of a John Piper message directed to youth workers entitled Imparting a Passion.
I want to begin by asking you a question that comes from the book of Acts. When your present generation of students graduates and leaves your group, or when you leave the group that you've been ministering to, will you be able to say what the Apostle Paul says in Acts 20:26? I testify to you this day. He's talking to the leaders of the church in Ephesus, where he has spent a couple of years. I testify to you this day that I am innocent of the blood of all of you, for I did not shrink from declaring to you the whole counsel of God. I did not shrink from declaring to you, young people, the whole counsel of God. I am innocent of your blood as you graduate from high school. Or have you even set a tone where a statement like that could even be heard with any seriousness? Would that sound so strange coming out of your mouth? I am innocent of your blood, young people. Would that sound so strange to them, given the way you've ministered to them, that you wouldn't even dare to say such a thing because it would sound so screwy in their heads, let alone be true because you have devoted yourself for about 6 years or 3 years to delivering the whole counsel of God to them? So that's my challenge to you, is that you would go home and develop a plan, 2, 3, 4, 6 years, to impart to your students the whole counsel of God, so that when they graduate at the banquet or the send-off, you might say with all earnestness, your blood is not on my hands. There's another way to put it, or two other ways to put it. One would be Romans 6:17, where Paul says, thanks be to God that you were once slaves of sin, but have become obedient from the heart to the standard of teaching to which you were handed over. The Greek word tupos, translated standard here. Thanks be to God that you have become obedient from the heart, young people, to the tupos didaskalias, the type of teaching, the standard of teaching to which I handed you over week after week after week. And you have become obedient from the heart to the standard of teaching, the whole counsel of God, to which I have imparted you. Not just imparted to you, I have led you to it, and I've led it to you. Week after week, your blood is not on my hands. There's a third way to say it, from 1 Timothy 6:20. O Timothy, guard the deposit entrusted to you. So now we have a third word for it, deposit, paratheke, a treasured thing deposited in you, and then you deposit in others. Oh, Timothy, guard the deposit entrusted to you. And then in 2 Timothy 2:2, what you have heard from me in the presence of any witness, and trust, same word in the verb form, and trust the deposit to others who will be able to teach others also. So now you have 3 words that are your charge in ministry. Have you imparted the whole counsel of God? Acts 20:27. Have you imparted the students to and handed them over to the type of teaching, the standard of teaching? And have you guarded the deposit in you and then imparted the deposit to them? Do you have in your mind and in your heart a counsel of God, a totality, a wholeness, a unity, a coherence, a body of divinity that you mean in this generation to impart to these students so that they have it when they leave? Why would you want such a thing? Why would you want to have it? Why would you want to impart it? Why would you want to hand them over to the type of teaching, the standard of teaching? Why would you want to pass on a deposit, a body? Well, one answer to that question would surely be that you want them to burn for Christ. Burn for Christ. And where does that come from? It does not come from singing. It comes from the truth we sing. You can get hands in the air in a minute with the right crescendo. But what about when they suffer? What about when they're rejected? Will they embrace it? Will they burn for Christ when there's no notes playing, no CDs, nobody else around, just rejection, just suffering, just sickness? Will they burn? That's the only kind of young people we want to breed. Who cares about the rest? It's the kind we want to breed. You want to breed burning young people who burn when they suffer for Christ. Suffering surely must be the mark of post-9/11 youth ministry. Surely in this world, if not any other world, you must breed sufferers for Christ. They are ready. They are ready. Call them to it.
No one says it quite like Piper does. I remember hearing this message in my early days of youth ministry. I think the point Piper brings up about suffering is a vital message for all of us, but a message we must be passing down to our children and students. One of the allures of social media is the fact that it distracts us away from pain. Adults and teenagers run to screens as a refuge from our pain. We all need to be aware of how often we run to screens to hide from the pains and difficulties of life. This is something we must be training the next generation to see.
Hey everyone, this is Brent Corbin, Executive Director for RYM. We are glad you've joined us on the RYM podcast in this series on digital Christianity. If you're anything like me, you have learned a lot, and you've been challenged in your thinking about how it is that you interact and engage with technology, and further challenged to think well about how to care for and minister to young people in our fast-paced digital world. As we seek to continue to serve the church in its efforts to reach and equip youth for Christ, it would mean a lot if you would share this podcast with your friends, with colleagues, with parents around you who may have children being raised amidst these challenges, and really anyone else who might benefit. Seriously, would you just press pause for about 30 seconds and send it on to several people? RYM cares so deeply about young people knowing, loving, and following Jesus for the rest of their lives. And so we are investing all of our time, energy, and efforts into churches, youth leaders, volunteers, parents, teachers, anyone and everyone who wants these same things for young people. So if that is you, let us serve you. Head to our website at rym.org and avail yourself of all of our resources and training efforts toward that end. If you are someone who is able to help in support of RYM, even support the making and production of this podcast, then head over to rym.org/give and consider making a gift in support of our ministry efforts. We do rely on the generosity of churches and people just like you to do what we do. Thank you so much for listening, and now back to the show.
Here's a clip of actor Stephen Graham talking to Jimmy Fallon about his role in Netflix's hit show Adolescence.
I got to talk about Adolescence, please. It came out last week. It's been number one ever since. People on social media are calling you the greatest British actor of all time, by the way. Oh. Yeah, plug your ears. Sorry. You also co-wrote the series.
Yeah.
How do we set up what this is about?
It's the story of a young boy who's convicted of a murder. It's a young boy who kills a young girl. I'm not doing any spoilers because we found out straight away. And as a collective, we didn't want it to be a whodunit. We wanted it to be more of a why he did it. Do you know what I mean? So what we kind of did was I read an article in the paper. It was about a young boy who stabbed a young girl to death. And then there was a couple of months later on the news, there was a piece about a young boy who stabbed a young girl to death. And these were at opposite ends of the country. And if I'm really honest with you, Jim, it hurt my heart. And I just think, what kind of a society we're living in at the moment where young boys are stabbing young girls? And you know that beautiful saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I just thought, what if we're all kind of accountable? You know, the education system, parenting, the community, the government. And also, when we were kids, we didn't have social media. So if we were in our rooms, when we were kids, we were either playing out in the streets, weren't we? Or we were in our rooms, like drawing pictures or playing keyboards or something. We didn't have the accessibility to all of this stuff in the world that really influences young minds. And I wanted to take a look at it. I'm not blaming anyone. I just thought maybe we're all accountable and we should, have a conversation about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's really great. You're right. No.
It's a heavy subject.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we need to look at.
Yeah.
As a society, basically.
I know that some of you may not be able to handle a show like Adolescence, but it's a show that accurately captures the lives of teenagers today. I appreciate a lot of what Graham says. The show carefully holds all of us accountable. Parents, teachers, the broader communities and cultures we inhabit. You've said it numerous times in this series, but adults really need to be sobered by the pressures today's teens have on them. Pressures that are solely connected to the destructive nature of social media. While a show like Adolescence isn't necessarily an uplifting one, I'm encouraged that our culture is becoming more vocal about concerns connected with social media. In that interview with Jimmy Fallon, you heard the crowd applaud Graham's comments. Not only is this show one of the most watched in Netflix's history, you have a book like The Anxious Generation that's a New York Times bestseller. I may be wrong, but we may look back at these two cultural artifacts and see them as turning points in the broader culture. And we're hearing this more and more in the culture. Just listen to actor David Harbour from Stranger Things as he talks about protecting his young co-star, Millie Bobby Brown.
I think she's in the crosshairs of something extremely dangerous that nobody seems to be paying attention to. I think the developing mind, as someone who gets this famous and has still a brain that is not fully developed, is an extremely difficult thing to navigate. And I hope that she gets the help that she needs. I know that I try to protect her as much as I can. But, my hope with Millie always, and my focus with her is always that I want her to be an artist who, when I'm in the nursing home, she'll bring me her Oscars and I can look at them and stuff like that. But I'm not sure, I think that the pitfalls are very deep in terms of this generation, this fame, this Instagram generation of constantly wanting to get likes or something.
Not only does Harbour address the desires for likes on Instagram, but he talks about the dangers of celebrity and fame at such a young age. This is something every teen is growing up with. Celebrity is accessible to each of them through a variety of platforms, and that's a pressure that's destructing and something we didn't have to face as teenagers. So where exactly do we go from here? What more can be said that hasn't already been mentioned on this series or any other podcast, article, or book discussing social media? Well, oftentimes it's not something new we need to hear, the same old truth we need to hear over and over again. For parents who are fearful over this technological age your children are growing up in, you're reminded you have a loving Father walking with you. For those of you who are worried that your children or students are going to be left out, you must be ready for that reality. Parents, youth workers, pastors, teachers, we must remind this next generation that Christians are called to be in the world, but not of it. This discussion on social media, that may be preparing our students and children to look different online, to abstain from some platforms that others are on, to be prepared to be mocked when they're unable to participate in something the world is doing, but they're not. As a parent of 5, it hurts when our children are left out. I don't want to minimize that at all. But we must come to terms with the fact that this will be a defining characteristic for disciples of Jesus. Which brings us to the last truth we keep in mind, and that's the gospel. The gospel is the ultimate answer to the world's biggest problem. The gospel has infinite implications to all of the problems we face each and every day. What I'm encouraging here is for parents and youth workers to ensure your teens are able to articulate it themselves. Throughout my years in youth ministry, I'm surprised by how many church-going teens are unable to clearly articulate what the gospel is. Yes, we need to be concerned about trends in social media, but let's not become so fixated on those that we forget to impart the most important message to our children. I thought the best way to close this series out is by reminding us of the best news in the history of the world. 2 Corinthians 8:9 is a concise way to sum up the message of the gospel. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, so that you, through his poverty, might become rich.